Now for global business updates, Bosin Omofaye joins us. Good morning,
Bosin. Everyone.
And
welcome to the table.
You are trying to process the off-camera conversation. Anyway,
let's see what's left in the barrel of oil. Let's check with the barrel of oil. I'm sure. Let's see what is left there this morning in Asia Trade Wednesday, the 16th of October. Uncertainty continued over the conflict in the Middle East after oil prices fell as much as $5 this week to the lowest level since the early October because of demand concerns. Brent crude rose about 0.25% to $74.43 a barrel at about 6:43 GMT today. U.S. West Texas Intermediate was up 0.33% to $70.81 per barrel. In the stock market, Asia stocks traded lower Wednesday, with Japan's Nikkei leading losses following declines on Wall Street on Tuesday. Investors will be watching for more stimulus measures to prop up the real estate sector in China, with the country's housing minister set to hold a press briefing on Thursday, 10 a.m. local time, according to a statement from the State Council Information Office on Tuesday. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 index fell 1.83%. In Australia, the S&P ASX 200 was down 0.3%, and in Korea, the Kospi fell 0.6%. Now, according to data released Wednesday by the Office for National Statistics, UK inflation fell precipitously to 1.7% in September. Reuters polled economists who predicted the headline rate will go below the Bank of England's 2% target for the first time since April of 2021 to a higher 1.9% for the month. In corporate news on Tuesday, a beta labor strike began its second month. Boeing attempted to support its faltering finances. In addition to a $10 billion credit deal with key lenders, the aircraft manufacturer revealed intentions to raise up to $25 billion through debt and equity issues. After a mid-air door panel burst earlier this year, and a protracted strike by thousands of union plant workers, Boeing is facing a production slump of its best-selling 737 MAX aircraft. According to one estimate, the strike cost the corporation over $1 billion every month. Let's go to earnings. Goldman Sachs, third quarter profit above forecast thanks to a resurgence in bond sales, stock offerings, mergers, which causes shares to rise more than 3% on Tuesday. As clients' economic confidence increased, the Wall Street behemoth's gains were similar to that of rival JP Morgan Chase and Citigroup, which also profited from debt and stock sales. Goldman's net income exceeded analyst projections of roughly $2.5 billion and compared to $2.1 billion in the third quarter of last year. And back here at home in September, Nigeria's headline inflation rate increased 0.55% month-on-month to 32.7% from 32.15% figure in August. And that was in line with the Consumer Price Index report from the Bureau of Statistics, which indicated a rise in food and transportation prices drove inflation during the month. This comes after the NNPC raised the price of gasoline starting in early September. And the World Bank says, has praised Yemi Cardoso, the governor of Nigeria's central bank, for his reforms, pointing out that his monetary policies are moving the nation in the right direction. This was said by Indemit Gill, the senior vice president of the World Bank Group, at the 30th Nigerian Economic Summit, which was held in Abuja on Monday by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Gill noted the 850 basis points increase in interest rates over the past 9 months and praised the central bank governor for his strategy for controlling inflation. And now back to the team.
With due respect, I disagree with Mr. Gill, and I think those policies have really hurt us so much. So take, for instance, the central bank has been trying to inject some dollar into the market through the BDCs. They started the sale of about $20,000, say they're going to ramp up that number to over $500 million worth. As of today on the parallel market is 1,700 to the dollar. You know what that has done? That has taken away the livelihoods of a lot of Nigerians. It's a highly import-dependent economy. Everything you do is denominated in dollars. I was telling somebody yesterday, ordinary an airline ticket, economy class, 6-hour flight, that you could get Lagos to London at 110,000 naira, 120,000 naira thereabouts on some good days. Today, the least you can get is 4 million. You are creaming away the livelihood of people for an import-dependent economy. I've always said, and I argue, that for an economy that is largely dependent on import and that doesn't have productivity, floating the currency of that country is like leading the country to an abattoir and killing the country. That's what we have done. Interesting. We have led the Nigerian economy to an abattoir, and that's just it. And in this abattoir, we have a lot of guillotines. I will tell you, number one guillotine is inflation. It's come up again 32.7%.
Yeah.
Removal of subsidies across board, energy subsidies, petrol subsidies, and all of that. Hardship. But you see, when a guillotine is riding around your head, the solution is not rice. We can't keep the ideology of rice kimono when a guillotine of economic damnation is already on your neck. So I disagree with this, the Bretton Woods said. Exactly what they told us in the 80s that brought us where we are in the first place. No, we need to think inwards.
All right, so with Boeing, it seems like they've just gone from one challenge to another. Of course, you know the whole issue they had with safety on their aircraft, and now it's their workers. The strike has gone on for 2 to 3 months now. But very importantly is that this money that they're hoping to raise through the banks, through equity,
sell assets,
sellers.
It's going to,
the credit rating agencies are concerned that this strike will actually downgrade their rating and also make it more expensive for them to borrow. So it's really how are they going to bounce back? I think for me that's the big question in terms of with all they face. I think they still have the case in the United States where they're trying to defend their safety procedures. So they have that on their hands, looking to raise some funds. Their workers are on strike. They haven't yet reached a deal. They're looking at a 30% increase in wages even for their staff. So a lot of things going on there. I'm just saying, for me, it's just how are they going to come out of this?
Not a good time for Boeing.
Not a good time at all. Not a good time.
Not a good time at all.
Not a good time. Then when Rufai talked about rice, I'm like, but part of the drivers of the headline inflation is food inflation, the numbers for food inflation. And some of the things that have been identified is the price of Guinea corn rice. Maybe that's why they give rice all the time. Maize, beans, yams, cassava, beer. I'm looking at Dr. Batia, and various oils are some of the things in terms of prices that have gone
on. Right. You get a beer right.
Yes, well. But for me, of course, when we look at the numbers, it's more than the numbers. For the people who are watching, it is the reality for Nigerians not being able to afford to eat. Adefemi was here a few minutes ago and she was talking about how now a lot of Nigerian homes can only afford to eat once a day. Prices have gone up so high. It then means that some of these reforms or policies that CBN has been praised for in recent times, unfortunately, we're not still seeing the gains from that, even though in the last 3 months, it looked like things were shaping up and looking better. So still a long way ahead of us, but I don't think 10 or 15 years. It's not that difficult. But at the end of the day, there are a few things I need to do. Both the monetary side and the fiscal side of things must be fixed. I think that's one of our biggest challenges thus far.
Okay, on Boeing, these are the key issues. Boeing now is contemplating raising $35 billion because it's having issues with its, finances. And out of that $35 billion, $10 billion will come from banks that have agreed. Boeing is going to set adrift 17,000 workers. The first set of workers will begin to receive their letters of notice of disengagement in November. Yesterday, the machinists, the International Union of Machinists, held a rally in Seattle, still insisting that they will not accept the offer from Boeing. Boeing has already withdrawn the offer of 30% salary increase over 4 years. And so there's a stalemate, and the strike itself has entered the second month. Fitch Ratings has already downgraded, Boeing. However, the share price of Boeing rose 2.2% yesterday when Boeing said, well, we're going to disengage staff, we're going to borrow money. They are going to give their corporate earnings report on 23rd October. But clearly, as Otley, the CEO of Boeing, has already admitted, Boeing is in very dire straits. Those are the issues, including the fact that the Labor Secretary is also trying to intervene to see how both parties can have peace. Now, you talked about oil. Now, in the U.S., oil seems to have gone down. You recall that on October 1, when Iran attacked Israel, there was this excitement that oil prices would go up. But, oil prices are now observing the laws of gravity. WTI is down 4.4%. Brent crude went down yesterday 4.14%. So we're now in the $70 range for WTI, in the $74 range for Brent crude. And why is this the case? Because Israel has made it clear that it will not attack Iranian oil facilities. It will also not, attack Iranian nuclear facilities. So in the market, the expectation is that geopolitical risk has moderated a bit, and that's why we find that the law of gravity has set in. Finally, in Asia Pacific, all the stocks went down, led by Nikkei, that dropped by 2%, and Hang Seng, that is the index in Hong Kong, dropped by 0.4%. Other indexes across the region, including the mainland China CSI 300, also dropped. And this is as a result also that Wall Street fell overnight, yesterday, with the S&P 500 and, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which rose radically on Monday, obeying the law of gravity. But we know this volatility in the stock market, volatility in the oil sector. As for Nigeria and their inflation figures, well, what do we expect? The hardship is upon us, and we keep suffering. And the man called Gil, who was speaking yesterday, he says it will take us 15 years if we maintain this policy of hardship. T-pain, they call it. If we maintain this T-pain...
No, that's defamatory. Don't say that.
Well,
no, he didn't call it. He just said that the hardship is called
Some people call it T-pain.
No, it's a hardship, Dr. Batis.
It's about hardship. It's about hopelessness. It's about difficulty. This Gilman was telling us we should sustain it for the next 15 years. By the next 15 years...
Don't say that.
If we keep
the reforms
momentum...
Anyway, our grandchildren will pay the price for it. As we are going.